My name is Alara Quinn, and in my family I've always been the person asked to step aside, lower my voice, and not make a scene. I never imagined it would go this far, my sister Celeste, swapping out the medication that keeps my heart steady. That morning I opened the bottle like I've done for years. My tablets are usually a deep sapphire blue, smooth and glossy. These were paler, almost chalky. I told myself pharmacies change suppliers all the time, that I was tired and overthinking. I swallowed one with water, waited for the familiar calm that follows a dose, and felt nothing but a slow creep of lightheadedness. It was my mother Marlene's 60th birthday, and the family had booked a long table at our usual place, Willow and Vine, a room that always smells like warm bread and old stories. When I arrived, Celeste was already radiant in her cream dress, accepting compliments as if the whole afternoon existed to frame her. Mom touched my elbow and smiled the way she does for photographs. "Sit near your sister," she murmured. "Let her enjoy today." I took the chair beside Celeste and tried to steady my hands beneath the table. The clink of silverware sounded far away. My chest tightened. Sweat gathered at my hairline. Celeste leaned in, voice honeyed. "You okay, Ellie?" "Don't bring the mood down." She was still smiling when she said it. I excused myself and walked out to the parking lot for air. The world tilted, then righted itself. I dug through my bag and found the blister strip I carry as backup. Under the gray afternoon light, the pills looked wrong again. Wrong color, wrong finish, wrong everything. I put the strip back, breathed slowly, and told myself to last until the cake. I didn't make it. The floor of the restroom rushed up to meet me, and the next thing I knew there were bright lights, voices, overlapping a stretcher. In the blur, I saw Celeste lifting her phone, angling for a story with a caption forming in her eyes. I heard my name once, twice, and then darkness folded over the edges. I woke in the ICU to the heartbeat monitor's patient metronome. Dr. Rafael Torres, my cardiologist, stood at the foot of the bed scanning my chart. "We're running toxicology and serum levels," he said gently. "You're stable for now." Mom sat close, fingers laced through mine as if we were at a church service. "Alara, sweetheart," she whispered. This was stress and maybe a mix-up. "Don't start a fuss. Celeste has residency interviews next month." The words were softly spoken and razor sharp. Not now. Not this. I stared at the IV line and then at my purse on the side table. When Mom stepped out to call my father, I reached in and slid the blister pack free and angled my phone to the overhead light. The imprint code on each tablet was crisp. My pulse climbed as I typed the letters and numbers into a pill identifier database. The result that popped up wasn't my prescription. It wasn't even the same class of medication. It was an over-the-counter calming aid with ingredients that can wreak havoc alongside a cardiac regimen like mine. The room seemed to narrow. I took a breath so deep it hurt and pressed the call button for the nurse. "I need to speak with pharmacy records," I said. When she left, I opened my call log and dialed the number on my last legitimate bottle. After a few transfers, a clerk answered. "Riverside Pharmacy, this is Paula." "This is Alara Quinn. Has my heart medication been changed recently?" "Different manufacturer. Different NDC." Paula hesitated, keys clicking. "Ms. Quinn, I do see a recent fill, but it isn't under our store ID. It was processed through our sister branch across town with a substitution note." Another pause. "There's no authorization from you or your physician on file." The chill that moved through me felt clean like clarity. "Who added the note?" I asked. "I can't say over the phone," she said, voice lowering. "But there's an internal contact listed. If you come in, ask for Milo." The line went quiet, except for the soft hum of the ward. I set the phone on the blanket and watched the green peaks on the monitor steady themselves one by one. Outside the glass, I could see my mother's reflection smoothing her hair, rehearsing the family version of events. Inside, I turned the blister strip over, reading the imprint again until it felt like a name. I took a pen from the tray and wrote a single word on the paper wristband circling my skin, Milo. For the first time all day, the room felt level. By morning, the ICU's ceiling tiles had become a private sky I could map with my eyes closed. A nurse named Carmen checked my vitals, and at my request sealed the suspicious blister strip into a hospital specimen bag. She dated and signed the label, and had a second nurse co-sign the seal chain of custody, she called it. The phrase steadied me. It suggested that the truth could be walked from one pair of hands to another until it reached daylight. Dr. Rafael Torres arrived just after shift change with coffee he swore wasn't for me, and a folder he didn't have to bring. Preliminary talk shows no narcotics, no alcohol, but your serum levels for your prescribed beta blocker were lower than expected, he said. Something diluted your regimen. We'll know more when the full panel returns. I told him about the imprint code, the over-the-counter calming formulation, the call with Paula at Riverside Pharmacy, and the name she'd whispered, Milo. He listened without blinking, then glanced at the sealed bag on my tray. You did the right thing, he said, voice low. I'll file a request for your EMR audit log. It documents every access, every change, every timestamp. You have a legal right to it. He hesitated. Alara, if you're up for it, loop in hospital compliance. They're not the enemy, but they move slowly, unless pushed. What if the issue didn't start here, I asked. What if it started the moment my prescription left your office? Then the logs will show it, he said. And if someone impersonated us from outside the e-prescribe gateway, will show a route and an IP. It's tedious, but paper leaves footprints. He left me with a patient copy of my current med list, an instruction sheet for requesting records, and an expression I had never seen on him, a guarded version of anger. When he was gone, I held the specimen bag up to the light and watched the chalky discs shine through the plastic like counterfeit coins. Mom slipped in around 9, perfectly composed, as if she were entering a luncheon and not a hospital room. I brought you a comb, she said, producing a tortoiseshell brush from her purse. They say you may go home this afternoon. Good, I said. I have somewhere to be. Where her smile faltered. Riverside. And the sister branch across town. I met her eyes. I'm asking for logs and CCTV. Her lips thinned. Darling, these systems are complicated. You'll embarrass yourself. Let the professionals review things quietly. Quietly is how this happened, I said. She reached for my hand, then thought better of it. Your sister has her residency interviews in 3 weeks. She can't be pulled into drama. I almost didn't wake up, I said. Drama happened to me. For a heartbeat, she looked 20 years older, fear breaking through whatever lacquer she lived under. Then it was gone. I'll call the restaurant manager at Willow and Vine to apologize for the commotion, she said, briskly squeezing the handle of her handbag. You know how small towns are. I don't live in a small town, I said. But she was already smoothing her hair in the reflection of the monitor, rehearsing a version of events that would not cost anyone she loved a single scratch. By noon, I was discharged with cautionary instructions and a promise to return if the dizziness recurred. Carmen handed me the sealed blister strip as if it were a fragile relic. Keep it closed, she said. If you need a witness for delivery, call me. Outside, the air tasted like rain against hot pavement. I ordered a rideshare to Riverside Pharmacy and texted Paula on the way. On my way. Patient records request. Asking for Milo. She replied with a single word. Come, and then the little bubbles vanished. Riverside sat at the end of a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a nail salon, the kind of place where the neon open sign never goes dark. Inside, the shelves smelled of cardboard and sugary vitamins. The pharmacy counter was a waist-high island under a bank of fluorescents, everything bright and exposed. Paula appeared from behind a partition with a lanyard, and the look of someone who had already decided to trust me. Ms. Quinn, I can give you your patient printouts, but anything beyond that needs a formal request. She glanced at the sealed bag in my hands. You came prepared. I didn't know how else to do this, I said. She lowered her voice. Milo's on his 15. Break room. Second door on the right. In the break room, Milo, mid-20s careful eyes stood when I entered, as if courtesy might be the last thing he could control. He gestured to the table. There was a paper cup of coffee waiting and a napkin with a note in block letters. No sugar. Heart. Ms. Quinn, he said I'm not supposed to talk without a manager, but you're the patient. That matters. I don't need you to break rules, I said. I need to understand the map. He exhaled. Okay. There are 3 places where a switch can happen. 1 at the prescriber end, an e-prescribe change, 2. At the dispensing software, we call it a substitution override, and 3 at pickup, someone hands you the wrong product. Usually errors are dumb, not evil, and this one looks intentional. He pulled a folded printout from his pocket and slid it across the table. I shouldn't have printed this. It's a transaction snapshot. Your last legitimate fill was at this location. The next one shows us routed through our Riverside North branch. There's a field here, manual override Y with a username. He had blacked out most of the line with a marker, but one letter escaped the Inca C followed by a smear. A username could be anyone, I said. True, he said softly. But the system also logs the ID scan at pickup. We require a driver's license for scheduled meds or any substitution. The pickup signature captured the initial C. Quinn. My sister, I said. The room tilted a degree. Celeste. Milo swallowed. I can't confirm that for you, but I can tell you there is CCTV at the North Branch, and they keep 30 days on a local server before it cycles. Your last fill there was 22 days ago. He checked his watch. You have time. I stared at the napkin between us at the blunt care of his block letters. Why are you helping me? He considered. Because my mother takes a blood thinner. Last year, a tech handed her something else with a label that looked similar. She didn't notice until she got home. She's okay, but I learned to notice the small wrong things. He stood. Go to North. Ask for Ms. Aileen Park, the store manager. She won't want to help, but if you show her the sealed bag and say patient safety review, she'll move. Paula met me at the counter to print my medication history with NDC codes and a clean copy of my ID. She slipped a yellow sticky beneath the stack. Aileen's shift ends at 5. Go now. Riverside North look newer, shinier, the kind of store that puts lavender near the registers, so you'll buy Serenity with your toothpaste. Ms. Eileen Park arrived at the counter with a plastic smile, and the energy of a gate swung half shut. I introduced myself, set the sealed blister pack on the counter, and said the exact phrase Milo had given me. Her smile collapsed into compliance in under 5 seconds. Wait here, she said, and vanished into an office with mirrored glass. While I waited, Celeste walked in. She wore hospital scrubs the color of robin's eggs and sunglasses pushed up like a headband. Our eyes met. For an instant, something like panic crossed her face quick as a bird's shadow. Then her mouth arranged itself into concern. Elle, she said, stepping forward, you should be resting. I was just grabbing saline and a phone charger for Mom. She's been worried sick. Has she? I asked. Celeste put a hand on my forearm. A sister's touch rehearsed enough to pass any audience test and lowered her voice. Listen, we can get ahead of this. There was a mix-up with your meds, obviously, but we don't need to paint it like sabotage. People make mistakes. If you start accusing, it will wreck lives that don't deserve wrecking. Whose lives? I asked. Name one person who didn't deserve to have this brought into daylight. She glanced toward the mirrored office door and then back at me, eyes bright with the performance of hurt. I'm thinking of you, Elle. Lawsuits drag on. Stress isn't good for your heart. Imagine the headlines. Local woman sues hospital and pharmacist. You don't want to be the face of outrage. I want to be alive at my next birthday, I said. Her fingers tightened on my arm for half a second too tight for concern before she released me and produced a smile polished to its final coat. Please, she said, let me help. I'll talk to Dr. Torres about calming this down. You know Dr. Torres now? I asked. She recovered without blinking. Everyone knows everyone. The mirrored door opened. Ms. Park returned carrying a small hard drive and a manila envelope. Ms. Quinn, she said brisk again. Per policy, I can provide you with footage where you appear and transaction records where you are the patient. I cannot release third-party identity without a subpoena. She placed the hard drive on the counter. This contains video from the pickup window on the dates you filled here. It's watermarked. The envelope is your transaction log with itemized NDC and staff initials. You'll sign acknowledging receipt. Celeste's head tilted, calculation flashing behind the soft brown of her eyes. What is this? She asked lightly. More paperwork, Elle, you don't need to. I do, I said. I signed, accepted the drive and envelope, and thanked Miss Park with a sincerity that made her blink. When I turned back, Celeste had already stepped away, phone in hand. Her thumbs moved fast, drafting a narrative no one had asked for. Family dinner tonight, she said without looking up. We need to talk. 7 o'clock. I have other plans, I said. No, she said finally, meeting my eyes with a gleam that stripped the varnish from her voice. You don't. I carried the drive home like a relic. On my kitchen table, I made 3 piles, hospital EMR request forms, Dr. Torres's notes. Pharmacy, Paula's printouts, Aileen's logs, the sealed blister strip still sealed and personal. My journal entries from the past 2 months. Symptoms I had written off and now retrieved like evidence from a river. I took photos of everything and emailed them to myself and to a new encrypted address I created with shaking hands. If someone came for the paper would still speak. At 6:45, my phone buzzed Mom. I let it go to voicemail, then played it on speaker. Alara Marlene said too bright as if cheerfulness could erase history were at Willow and Vine. Your father ordered your favorite. Don't be late, darling. I didn't want to go. I went anyway, not because obedience was muscle memory, but because sometimes the only way to map a minefield is to step into it and learn the pattern of the clicks. Willow and Vine's back room was already set with 3 water glasses and 4 wine stems. Dad Howard Quinn stood when I entered, hands open, the universal sign of a man who wants credit for neutrality. Mom kissed my cheek with her eyes closed, as if that made it less like theater. Celeste, immaculate in a soft white sweater that would never know the inside of a laundromat, patted the chair beside her. I'll sit across, I said. We ordered, we pretended, then the pretending ended. Mom folded her napkin, precisely a surgeon of social cues. Alara, she said, we are worried. You are spiraling this. The hospital said you're stable. That is what matters. What matters, I said, is that my prescription was altered, and someone with my last name picked it up. Dad's eyes flicked to Celeste and back. There are misunderstandings, he said gently. Credit cards on file autofills, split pickups. Stop, I said. I have the transaction log and the video. I haven't watched it yet because I wanted to hear what you'd say first. Celeste's smile held, but her jaw ticked once. If you watch grainy footage and convince yourself you see what you want to see. There's nothing I can do, she said, voice low. People project. Then tell me what I'll see, I said. Help me not project. Silence slid across the table like a pane of glass. Finally, Celeste sighed a soft theatrical sound. I picked up one of your refills last month, she said, because Mom was busy, and you were at work, and I was literally across town. The pharmacist said there was a substitution due to supply. I asked twice if it was safe. He said yes, that's all. Then why didn't you tell me, I asked? I didn't want you to spiral, she said, choosing my mother's word like it fit in her mouth. You catastrophize. Dad reached for my water glass and refilled it, though it wasn't empty. Mom's fingers smoothed the cloth again and again. Everything in their bodies asked for the scene to return to neutral. I'm not spiraling, I said. I'm documenting. There's a difference. Document all you like, Celeste said, but don't drag my name through mud without absolute proof, because that will not go well for you. Is that a threat, I asked. It's a warning, she said softly. I still love you. I left before dessert because I couldn't choke down sugar with the taste of metal in my mouth. In the parking lot, my phone chimed. A text from an unknown number. Check your front step before midnight. For your heart. Attached was a location pin, my apartment building. For a long minute, I stared at the screen, weighing dread against curiosity, then called Paula. Are you still at Riverside? I asked. We're closing, she said. What's wrong? Someone just sent me a pin, I said. It feels like bait. Do not go alone, she said immediately. Want me to swing by on my way home? I live 5 minutes from you. Please, I said. We drove separately and arrived within the same minute. The porch light of my building carved a triangle of yellow on the concrete. There at the top of the steps sat a plain brown box the size of a hardback novel wrapped with packing tape and addressed to E. Quinn in block letters. Paula stood back, phone ready. Open it, she said. Inside, nestled in tissue, was a USB drive labeled in Sharpie Override. Beneath it, a single printed page, no heading, no signature, listing 3 things. User CDUS to 01 manual substitution override, 141208. Pickup ID scan DL ending 3471 initials CQ, IP 72 and 16.844. Clinic portal session delegate, K. Adisa. Paula inhaled. We don't use those user formats, she said. That looks like a clinic site ID. And that IP is a private range internal network. Clinic portal. I repeated the words heavy as a key in my mouth. Dr. Torres's group had a clinic portal. So did every practice in the county. Plug the drive into something you don't mind nuking, Paula said. Air gap it. If it's malware, better to kill a spare than your life. Back inside, I dragged my old laptop from a closet, the one with a chipped corner, and a battery that had to be bribed. Paula watched as I disconnected the Wi-Fi and plugged in the drive. 2 folders bloomed on the screen, screens and footage. Inside screens were PNGs of software windows, a substitution override screen with the username CWS01 visible in the upper bar, a clinic portal message with the words approved to substitute patient anxious on current formula a roster of delegate accounts including K. Adisa. Inside footage were short video clips stamped with the North Branch's logo. In the first, a woman in a white sweater and sunglasses signed for a bag at the counter. She pushed her glasses up, glanced to her left toward a mirror, and the side of her face filled the frame. Celeste. Paula didn't speak. She didn't need to. The room hummed with the fan of the old laptop and the quiet shock of confirmation. My phone vibrated again. A new message from the unknown number. It's not just her. Check the audit trail. Start with Adisa. Then look at who approved her. You're close. Who is Adisa? I asked aloud. Paula frowned. Could be Kemi Adisa. I've seen that name on clinic prescriptions. She's a medical assistant. Delegates sometimes place refills for doctors. If her credentials were used, she didn't finish. I thought of Dr. Torres's steady eyes and of the caution that had edged his voice. Delegates. IPs. Screens folded like origami to hide the hand that made them. Compliance first, Paula said, as if reciting from a manual only she trusted. Then police. Then an attorney. Do not post any of this. Don't give your sister time to spin it. Gather file move. I nodded, wrote Adisa in my notebook, and underlined it twice. I copied the drive to an external disk, and then made a second copy. I tucked one into a padded envelope addressed to my encrypted post office box and sealed it with a strip of red tape that read "Tamper Evident." When Paula left midnight, had painted the hallway the color of a bruise. I locked the door, checked the chain, checked it again, and stood in the middle of my living room listening to the building breathe. Somewhere on the 3rd floor, a faucet squeaked. Somewhere outside, a car idled and drove on. I sat at the table, opened my laptop, and drafted 3 emails, one to hospital compliance attaching my request for the EMR audit log with a fresh urgency, one to Dr. Torres, short and factual, asking about the clinic's delegate accounts and whether K. Adisa worked under his supervision, and one to a lawyer whose name Carmen had slipped onto a sticky note, Lena Mercer, patient rights and healthcare fraud. I didn't send any of them yet. Instead, I stared at the cursor as if it were a metronome that could time my next breath. My phone face down buzzed once more. I flipped it over, ready to block to delete, to live on one fewer thread of information if that was the cost of quiet. The message was from Dr. Torres. Do not wait for compliance. Come to my office at 7 a.m. I pulled a partial audit. There's something you need to see. And Alara, bring a witness. I reread it until the words blurred, then set the phone beside the sealed blister strip, the twin to the counterfeit I had swallowed. The room felt level again, no tilt, no hidden slope, just a straight corridor with doors I could open in order. At 6:58 a.m., I stood outside the clinic with Paula beside me, coffee steaming in the early light. The override drive in my bag, the sealed strip in my pocket, and the word Adisa inked like a compass point on my palm. Inside, behind the glass of the front desk, a woman looked up, surprised to see patients before the phones began to ring. A badge on her chest read K. Adisa. She smiled. Good morning. Name and date of birth. I said my name. I said my date of birth. And as she typed, I watched the way her fingers moved fast, certain like someone who knew exactly which fields could be altered and which could not. When the inner door clicked and Dr. Torres appeared, his expression was grave enough to make the room colder. Ms. Quinn, he said, nodding to Paula. Thank you both for coming. Let's go back. He held the door for us. I stepped through, pulse, steady breath measured. I had walked into so many rooms that weren't mine. This one finally felt like a threshold I chose. As it closed behind us, a shadow detached from the waiting area's corner and moved toward the counter. Soft voice, warm tone, familiarity like a talisman. Morning, Kemi Celeste said, sliding a cup of coffee across the desk to K. Adisa. Busy day. Kimmy smiled up at her, recognition bright between them. Always, she said. Thank you. And something in me, something old and useful, locked into place. Dr. Torres led us past the waiting room into a small conference space where the blinds were half drawn and a single monitor hummed. Paula took the chair to my left and opened a ruled notebook. Her pen hovered like a metronome that could keep my breathing honest. Raphael set a folder down palms on the table. "Before we start," he said, "I've placed a legal hold on your chart and on all prescription activity originating from this clinic. That means our IT team has snapshotted the database to a write-once archive. No one should be able to alter it without leaving a trail a mile wide." "Thank you," I said. The relief wasn't loud. It was practical, like discovering a door actually locked when you twist the deadbolt. He turned the monitor toward us. "This is a partial audit from our EMR and the ePrescribe gateway. Every access creates an event. Here," he pointed to a line. "2 weeks before your collapse, K. Adisa entered a patient-intolerant request substitution note. 2 minutes later, an account labeled CWest 01 approved it. At 14:12:08, the e-script transmitted to Riverside North." "Who is CWest 01? Paula asked. "Camille West Raphael said. "Clinic operations supervisor. She manages delegate permissions. She does not practice medicine." "And that IP?" I asked. "What is it made for?" "Front desk terminal 3, he said. Which means that note was keyed in from the lobby, not an exam room. At that time, according to the schedule, I was in the cath lab at the hospital. "So you couldn't have approved anything," I said. He shook his head once. "I did not. And I never authorized substitutions on cardiac meds without seeing the patient." The door clicked. A knuckle rapped softly before a woman in a navy cardigan stepped in. Her badge read K. Adisa. She paused when she saw Paula and me, then looked to Raphael as if she'd take the temperature of the room from him alone. "Kemi," he said, gentler than I expected. "Thank you for coming. This is Ms. Quinn, and this is Ms. Paula Reynolds from Riverside Pharmacy. She's here as a witness for the patient." "I'm sorry if I've done anything wrong," Kemi said, voice low. I thought I was helping." Raphael gestured to the chair. "Tell us in your own words what happened." Kemi sat on the edge like the chair might refuse to hold her. "A woman called the front desk and said she was Ms. Quinn's sister. She sounded competent. She said Alara was spiraling on her current formula, and that Dr. Torres had previously mentioned trying a different one if anxiety worsened." She swallowed. "Dr. Torres, sir." "I know you didn't say that, but she used enough clinic language that I believe she'd been in a visit with her." "Did she give a name?" I asked. Kemi's eyes dipped. "Celeste." The monitor's blue light washed the room, and for a second I felt nothing. No shock, no heat, just that chilly clarity again, the kind that makes you think in bullet points. Kemi went on. "She told me she'd stop by to pick up the refill because her mother was driving, and you—" Her eyes flicked toward me, were at work. "I typed the note and asked for a supervisor to approve because it wasn't on a standing protocol." Ms. West badged in and clicked it through. Kemi's hands tightened together. "I asked if we needed a message to the physician. She said she'd loop one later." "Did she?" Raphael asked. Kemi shook her head. "I didn't see one." When the prescription routed to Riverside North, I called to warn them there would be a substitution. The text said, as long as the system showed approval, they'd dispense. I opened the specimen bag just enough to let the light catch the chalky discs, then sealed it again. "Kemi," I said, careful even, "did you know what I was prescribed? Did you read the interaction warnings?" "I know now," she said, eyes filling. "I am so sorry." Raphael didn't comfort her. He didn't scold her either. "Kemi, you're going to speak with compliance in an hour," he said. "For now, 2 requests. 1, don't touch your computer. 2, write down everything you remember time calls words. Include who told you what. It's not about blame. It's about a clean record." She nodded, stood, and started for the door. It opened before she reached it. Celeste leaned in carrying 2 coffees with our clinic's logo, like she belonged to the place. "Kemi," she said brightly, sliding 1 cup across with her thumb, hazelnut latte extra hot. "Busy morning." Kemi froze. The coffee hovered mid-air. Raphael moved faster than anyone that polite should move, stepping into the doorway like a stop sign. "This room is closed," he said. Celeste's smile only faltered for a heartbeat. She swept her gaze over me and Paula, then past Raphael to the glowing audit log. Her eyes lingered half a second on CUS 201 and went glassy with calculation. Elle, she said, angling her voice to family. Mom said you'd be here. We can work this out without making enemies. Paula stood. We're done here, she said to Raphael and slipped a card onto the table. My direct number. I'll wait in the car. When the door closed behind her, the room felt smaller. Celeste set the second coffee on the conference table, as if she were hostessing a show. I brought one for you too, Dr. Torres, she said, white-toothed palms open. We all want the same thing. Alara, safe. What I want, Raphael said evenly, is for the truth to be preserved. She tilted her head. The truth is that a clumsy substitution was made with good intentions. The truth is that my sister's anxiety is real, and she refuses to treat it. The truth is that she's spinning this into a conspiracy because that feels better than taking responsibility. I looked at the coffees at her flawless hands, at the small smear of foundation along the ridge where the sunglasses had rested earlier in the morning. The truth, I said, is on video. The truth has timestamps. Something flickered in her eyes, boredom, shedding its skin to show irritation beneath. You always did love a timestamp, she said. Minutes logged, wrong things noticed. Raphael's tone didn't change. Ms. Quinn, he said to her deliberately. Formal. I'm placing you on notice that all clinic communications are being preserved under a legal hold. If you have had any contact with staff about Ms. Ilara Quinn's care, I advise you not to communicate further without counsel. Counsel? She laughed softly. Elle, look what you've started. I started breathing again, I said. Her smile collapsed into something vacant, and for one stranded second I saw the person underneath the hungry part, the part that needed to be the narrator and the plot and the applause. Then she lifted the coffee, left it untouched, and set it back down with a manicure click of decision. You won't like how this ends, she said, and left. Raphael exhaled. We'll need to loop in hospital security and the police, he said. I'll call the compliance officer now. Compliance came in the shape of Janice Pruitt, a woman whose gray bob looked like it refused to participate in nonsense. She sat opposite me with a legal pad and a square glass of water that did not sweat. We have your consent to share limited medical information with law enforcement, she said, pen poised. We will output the EMR audit, the e-prescribe logs, and your medication list with lot numbers. We will also issue a litigation hold to Ms. West and to the front desk terminals. What you give me, she tapped the specimen bag, will be logged as patient-provided evidence. You keep custody until we hand it to the detective, at which point we'll record the transfer. Detective, I asked. Detective Anika Rowe, she said. Municipal crimes. She's worked medical fraud cases. Janice's eyes shifted satisfied. She's on her way. Paula texted from this parking lot. I'm here when you need me. A minute later, Milo chimed in. Pulled stills from pickup signature. Copy waiting at my place if police want chain. The machine turned. It didn't feel good. It felt necessary. Detective Rowe arrived with a notebook thicker than Paula's and a presence that calmed the air by exactly 2 degrees. She listened without interrupting while Raphael and Janice set the stage, then slid a business card toward me. I'm not here to decide motive, she said. I'm here to capture what happened and who did what. You've done the hard part already, you noticed. We gave her the drive labeled override. She did not plug it into anything. She placed it in an evidence bag and wrote my name across the seal. You keep your copy, she said. I have a forensic workstation for this. Detective Raphael said you should also know that Ms. Quinn's sister appears to have a familiar relationship with our medical assistant and that the operations supervisor approved a substitution from a lobby terminal. Rowe's pen moved. Names. He gave them. She asked for spellings. She asked what time Celeste had been at the desk this morning. I watched her draw shapes on her page arrows connecting boxes that held our people like chess pieces. She did not say guilty. She did not say innocent. She said preserve. Ms. Quinn? She said at last, I'll also need your parents' information. If anyone in the family contacted the clinic or pharmacy on your behalf, that's relevant. I gave her their names and numbers. Saying them felt like handing over my childhood in a clear plastic bag. Rose stood. Here's my plan. I'll collect the North Branch CCTV and pick up signature files before they roll off. I'll serve preservation notices to the clinic and to Riverside Corporate. I'll interview Ms. West and Ms. Adisa separately, and I'll call your sister for a voluntary statement. She paused. Do not discuss this with her. If she contacts you, save every message. Block, don't engage. Don't. She'll post, I said. She always posts. Then we'll make a court date with evidence, not with comments, Rose said. That afternoon, I stopped by Paula's and signed her informal notes as a witness, had a second chain alongside the official one. Milo handed over a USB with the pickup stills and the swipe of a driver's license with numbers redacted except the last 4. He held my gaze until I nodded. He knew what those digits meant. He also knew we shouldn't say them out loud. By evening, my phone had bloomed with a dozen messages from unknowns parroting Celeste's phrasing. Get help. Don't wreck lives you always dramatize. None of them were threats exactly. They were warnings dressed as love. You are the problem, and we want to rescue you from yourself. I saved screenshots, turned off previews, and left the phone face down. At 9, the door buzzer startled my spine like a cymbal. I ignored it. It rang again. A third time. I moved to the peephole and saw my mother's posture, back straight coat, belted every hair obeying the part. Beside her, my father looked at the floor like a man examining exit routes. I opened the door the width of the chain. Sweetheart, Mom said the word polished to a dull shine. You're making a mistake. Which one, I asked. Dragging Celeste into this, she said. Talking to police. Letting strangers into our family. Strangers saved my life, I said. Dad lifted a hand. We can fix this quietly, he said. We have a friend on the hospital board. We can ask for a review. No cops, no courts. I already filed with compliance, I said. That bell's rung. Mom's smile thinned. You think this is brave, she said. But it's petty. You were always jealous. You don't need to burn down our name to feel tall. A dozen answers rose and died. In the end, I used none. Please don't come again without calling, I said. There's a no-contact order in draft if the detective thinks it will help. I don't want that. I want peace. Her eyes went flat. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. I would if my heart keeps beating afterward, I said, and closed the door. I stood with my forehead against the wood, while my pulse counted to 10, then 20. Somewhere below, a neighbor's TV laughed at a joke I couldn't hear. On the table, my laptop chimed a new email. From Detective Anika Rowe, subject update plus next steps. I opened it. I have secured the North Branch CCTV and Riverside logs. Preliminary review confirms pickup by an individual matching your sister's description. I have also interviewed Ms. West. She states she approved what the medical assistant placed and assumed Dr. Torres was aware. Ms. Adisa confirms a call from your sister. I've requested records from your mobile carrier to verify the timing of calls from your mother's line to the clinic on the dates in question. Please do not be alarmed if you see a preservation request on your account. This is standard. Finally, I've petitioned for a search warrant for digital devices associated with Ms. West's clinic account. If granted, execution will be tomorrow morning. I will keep you informed. Be safe. Save everything. Don't engage. A. Rowe. I read it twice then, a third time, then closed the laptop like lowering a lid on a pot you needed to simmer, not scorch. At 10:41 p.m., a new message slid onto my screen from an unknown email. Subject friendly advice. No body text. Just a single attachment NDA family.pdf and a line in the preview pane signed by midnight, or we go public. I didn't open it. I forwarded it to Detective Rowe and copied Janice. Then I walked to the kitchen, turned on the light, and lined up what was mine to hold the sealed blister strip, the backup drive, the notebook with Milo from the first day, the sticky note with Adisa, underlined the penciled list of evidence that had grown and grown until it looked like a map with all the roads sketched in. Outside, a siren peeled the night into ribbons and then stitched it back together. I rinsed a glass. I drank water. I sat until my spine learned the chair again. When sleep finally came, it brought a dream of a terminal screen where every keystroke left a bright permanent trail across black. Letters and times, names and approvals. No way to erase. No way to pretend. At 6:12 a.m., my phone vibrated against the nightstand. Rowe. We have the warrant, she said. We're serving Ms. West now. One more thing, you should stay put this morning. If Ms. Quinn, she never said Celeste in that tone, realizes what we're collecting, she may try to contact you. Understood, I said. Andy Lara. She added softer, we will be asking the DA for a no-contact order today. If she or your parents show up, call 911 first, me second. 2 hours later, my buzzer went again. This time I didn't hesitate. I looked through the peephole and saw no one. Only a padded envelope on the mat, white with a blue stripe. I opened the door, bent and lifted it. Inside lay a single photograph. Glossy time stamped the clinic lobby from above Terminal 3 in the foreground. Kemi at the keyboard, and beside her leaning over the desk with a paper cup and a smile like it could open any door Celeste. On the back in a jagged hand a message. It wasn't just a substitution. Check the second approval. Look for delegation escalated. Who can escalate? Not Kemi. Not West. I turned the photo over again, looking past my sister's immaculate hair to the upper right corner of the frame, where a reflection in the glass caught a figure in motion, Camille stepping away, and beyond her, the blurred shoulder of a man in a white coat badge flashing. Raphael. No, the coat was longer, the posture, older, the badge on a lanyard I'd never seen. The reflection was too smudged to read the name. But the line on the back of the photo glowed in my head like a status light. Delegation escalated. Someone higher had touched this. My phone chimed a new message from Rose. Sit tight. We found more than West's login. I'm on my way to you with news. I set the photo on the table next to the sealed strip, and the drive, and the first page of a story I had finally learned how to write, not as an apology or a defense, but as a record. The coffee on the counter had gone cold. The room felt level, no tilt, no slope, just a straight corridor with one more door I hadn't opened yet. Detective Anika Rowe arrived before noon. Rain freckles on her blazer, a steadying calm following her into my apartment, like weather that had finally made up its mind. She set a file on the table beside my evidence piles and spoke in the voice professionals use when they're carrying both truth and care. We imaged Camille West's workstation, she said. Your hunch about delegation escalated was right. A higher credential approved the switch after Ms. West. The credential belongs to Dr. Lionel Ward, Clinic Medical Director. She paused. He also sits on the hospital board. My father's phrase, "we have a friend on the board," landed with an audible click I felt in my ribs. Rose slid photographs across audit screenshots, a permission tree, a brief email thread. In one message, Marlene Quinn asked Ward for help smoothing a small medication substitution so our family isn't embarrassed. Ward replied, terse, handled. Please, route questions through Camille. Timestamps matched the override on my chart. Ward says he believed he was approving an anxiety-friendly equivalent, Rowe continued. He also admits your mother called him. He claims good intentions and administrative oversight. That won't cover him. And Celeste, I asked. We have video of pickup in the ID scan. We have the call logs to the clinic and to Riverside North. We have your sister's texts encouraging staff to keep it quiet so my mom doesn't panic, Rose said. I'm filing charges for prescription fraud impersonation and attempted poisoning. For Ward and West, tampering with medical records and unauthorized practice. For Ms. Adisa, I'm recommending an administrative corrective, not criminal. She documented and cooperated. I thought of Kemi's hands knotted in her lap of her soft. I thought I was helping. I nodded. Rose's gaze softened. I've already submitted a no-contact order for your parents and your sister. The judge signed it this morning. The knock came as if the words summoned it. 2 uniforms in the hall. Papers. The slow, careful choreography of a life being told to stay away. I signed. The door closed. The room was quiet again. The arraignments happened faster than most stories would allow because the evidence didn't blink. Camille West surrendered to officers at the clinic. She stared at the floor as the cuffs whispered shut, then lifted her chin for the cameras like posture could spin facts. Dr. Lionel Ward arrived with an attorney and a statement about unfortunate miscommunication that read like a man auditioning to keep a title. The medical board suspended his license pending review. Celeste turned herself in the next morning, hair immaculate sweater, softer than any sentence. She smiled at me from across the courtroom with a practiced sister look that had always worked before I know you. We can fix this. I returned nothing. Marlene and Howard sat behind the defense row, hands folded in identical fig leaves of decorum. When the clerk read the no-contact order into the record, my mother blinked once as if bright light had suddenly found her. In the preliminary hearing, Detective Rowe's testimony stacked like careful stones the audit trail, the override drive, the pharmacy logs with NDC codes, the still frame of Celeste at the counter, the handled email, the call map that stitched phone numbers to times like thread through cloth. Janice Pruitt explained the legal hold. Dr. Torres described standard of care and the risks of unmonitored substitutions in cardiac patients. When it was my turn, I spoke only what I had seen and done. I did not speculate. I held facts like they were glass. Celeste's attorney tried to turn the case into a family misunderstanding that had outrun itself a fast horse no one meant to saddle. He said anxiety, concern, care. Rose Cross brought him back to signatures and usernames. There is a kind of courtroom silence that feels like air deciding to sit. We reached it and stayed there. The judge bound over all felony counts for trial. Ward and West took pleas before a jury could hear their emails read aloud. Felony tampering, probation, loss of license, community service, mandatory compliance training that would teach them the ethics they had tried to shortcut. In a hallway afterward, Ward's attorney said no winners. I walked past. There was oxygen, and there was truth. I took both. Celeste went to verdict. The prosecution did not shout. They pulled thread the call to Kemi, the override by West, the escalation by Ward, the pickup by Celeste, the collapse on a restaurant floor, the hazelnut latte offered at a clinic door like tribute to Access. They did not say jealousy or spotlight or family performance. They said attempt, risk, intent. When Celeste testified, she cried the way some actors can, tears round enough to photograph pauses placed to catch sympathy in the front row. I never wanted to hurt Alara, she said. I just wanted her calm enough to see she needs help. Who gets to decide what I need? I asked her in the hallway during a recess, a question I had been carrying since we were 10 and she learned how to arrange rooms. She didn't answer. It was the first honest silence she'd given me. The jury took 8 hours. They returned with guilty on attempted poisoning, prescription fraud, and impersonation. The judge spoke of jeopardy and arrogance and the duty of care families owe. He sentenced Celeste to 12 years eligible for parole after 7 ordered no contact without my written consent and required restitution to the hospital for the costs of the emergency care she'd forced. I didn't cheer, I breathed. Outside the courthouse, microphones waited. I said 3 sentences. Thank you to the people who followed the logs. Thank you to those who noticed the small wrong things. I hope we make it easier next time for the next person to be heard sooner. Then I went home and put the sealed blister strip chain of custody intact into a lockbox I no longer needed to open. Epilogue is too grand a word for what came next. Life is smaller and kinder than that when it is allowed. Kemi kept her job after remedial training and a note in her file that reads like a lesson learned rather than a scar. Paula and Milo came to dinner on a Sunday and brought bread and laughter. Their careful noticing has become a family I chose. Dr. Torres testified at the medical board and then sent me a letter paper stamp saying only, "You did the right thing." My parents moved through the edges of my days like weather I could see but not feel. The no-contact order made distance official. Sometimes I think of my mother smoothing her hair in the reflection of a monitor, practicing a version of love that never learned how to listen. I wish for her a different teacher than shame. I wish for myself peace, and I keep most of it. I still write times in the margins of my life. It's not obsessing. It's a gratitude ledger. I'm 12. Coffee with Paula. 40 walked past Willow and Vine and did not flinch. 21. Phone buzzed with a message from a stranger. Your story made me check my father's meds twice. Thank you. Sometimes I visit a support group and place the words chain of custody in the middle of our circle like a small, useful tool. We talk about how noticing isn't the same as making a scene and how some scenes deserve to be made. On my wristband from that first day, the paper one I never threw away, the ink has faded, but you can still read the name I wrote to keep from drifting Milo. I keep it in the lockbox with the drive and the verdict form, and a photo from a different afternoon sunlight through a kitchen window and 3 friends laughing. The rooms are level now. The doors I walk through are ones I choose. And when I raise a glass at my next birthday, I will not ask permission to speak. I will say the words I learned to trust. Here is what happened. Here is who helped. Here is what we kept honest. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring more journeys and lessons together.